Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything is Energy. Happy Sunday, and welcome to the weekly astrology forecast for the week of today, April 18th through the 25th, 2026. This is a big week. This is a potentially intense and potent week. We have Uranus ingressing into Gemini this week, which I'm going to do a whole other podcast about that. But for right now, I'll just let you know that that's the main exclamation point of the week, but there's just so much going on. And there's personal intensity, there's also collective activation. There's a lot of Aries energy that's active at the start of this week. And we're being asked to refine our actions and to be disciplined about our reactions. But there's also, this Uranus entering Gemini shift, and there's some really wonderful opportunities for our communicative understanding of who we are and why we're here. So let's get to it. Today, Sunday the 19th, we have Mars conjunct Saturn in Aries just before 7 p.m. Pacific time. This is a rather defining moment. Mars wants action. Saturn wants structure. And that could create a little bit of a tension. And I'm going to call the Aries concentration intensity, as I said. Here, we might feel a little bit slowed down, but it's not, or maybe even tested, but I want to help us refocus. The universe is always listening to us and it's always asking us what we want. And during those times when we're in, say, a gray area, or we've been plugging away at something for quite some time, and we're still being asked the same old question, do you really want that? And it's often in those kind of gray areas like this week where we're going to be tested in ways when we're at the grocery store, when we're getting gas. And just by being and breathing and being willing to be true to ourselves, we're going to pass the test. But it also is going to invite us to be precise and to not be lazy around how we're running our energy. And so, this aspect right at the top of the week, this isn't blockage, this is refinement. And this is reminding us that what we say and do now matters very much. Let's get to Monday, the 20th. This is a day of clarity through focus. We have next, Mercury's conjoining Saturn just after 7 a.m. on Monday. And then later on in the day, before 6 p.m., Mercury is going to be conjunct Mars. So all three of these planets are very close together in Aries. And so this is going to, be another, as I said, another personal week, another personally. And when I say intense, I don't want us to feel stressed about that. Maybe the word powerful is more accurate. Having Mercury active on Monday is going to sharpen our mental acuity. And I don't mean intellect, I mean our mental body, our communicative body, our expressive field. We may be able to get more clarity early in the week and be able to focus. It's a really excellent aspects, both of them, Mercury conjunct Saturn and Mercury conjunct Mars, for planning, for setting boundaries, for making decisions, and also to remember that the things we speak and the things we think about and everything we vibrate about carries tremendous power. That's a Uranian thing, and that's kind of interesting that it's setting us up for, as I mentioned, what's coming later in the week. Let's shift to Tuesday, the 21st, if Chiron active in the 21st. So definitely a day about healing. Venus is semi-sextile to Chiron. So this is kind of like a gentle opening of our heart field. So after maybe the intensity of Sunday and Monday, there's compassion. There's emotional awareness that we naturally uh, feel drawn towards. So this might be a day or an aspect that invites the quiet work of healing. And it's perfect antidote for a very kind of personally intense start of the week. On Wednesday, April 22nd, we're moving into Taurus season. The sun enters into Taurus and it is semi-sextile to Neptune. This is also going to kind of ratchet down the energy of the intensity of Aries earlier in the week, where we started off moving in about personalization and action. Here we're being asked to embody something. And if there was any kind of intensity or urgency at the start of the week, here we're moving into a phase of steadiness. So this is midweek. This is kind of a grounding vibe. And I would say listen to what your body needs. Listen to what your intuition, but also the physicality of your body is communicating to you. On Thursday, the 23rd, this is a day of emotional breakthrough. Venus is conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so this is at the very, very, very late degrees. Venus and Taurus are going to pop into Gemini in the next 2 days after this, but they're in this conjunction at 10 p.m. on Thursday. And this is a heart awakening. There might be some really kind of Uranian lightning bolts of change, but it's going to be about emotional clarity, emotional liberation. Maybe there's some kind of an unexpected change. And I will say this about this aspect: what is true will feel freeing. What is your truth will be empowering and liberating. So stay connected to the heart, stay connected to what is true for you. And this brings us to Friday, the 24th. We have Venus entering the sign of Gemini. So Venus and Uranus were conjunct at the last degree of Taurus just the day before. Now Venus is popping. She's going to move slightly or a lot faster than Uranus. So Friday, Venus enters into Gemini. And then the next, shortly after that, Uranus enters into Gemini. But let's focus on Venus and Gemini here, because this is, even though it's a personal planet, it is a major shift. And this is about our emotional field, Venus. This is about our field of how we interact with the collective, justice, balance, and harmony. And here, coming into the very early degree of Gemini, this is going to bring some curiosity in true Gemini fashion, some wanting to hear from all sides, right? That's what Gemini is. As I like to, the metaphor for me is when Gemini is at the party, wants to talk to everybody in the room, not just the people that think exactly and precisely like it does. It defines the mental stimulation is part of it, and all sides matter. So Venus in Gemini is going to bring this kind of interest, heart-centered interest in connection and in communication. And also this kind of desire for the variety of the tapestry of the whole, as I was saying. Gemini just doesn't want to talk to its twin in a corner and feel comfortable. It's open, it's about openness to new perspectives. So this is great because after the grounding of Taurus, this energy is going to start to move again. Venus is going to move again, but the heart and the mind are going to be able to be in sync here as this motion begins. We also have on Friday Mercury semi-square to Uranus. So again, communication, and Uranus is gearing up for that big shift. And Mercury semi-square Uranus is going to be, our mental body is going to be active, might feel a little bit electric. This is a preview of what's coming. Maybe ideas are moving quickly, but also I will offer the caveat that it's, as with everything, is if we're in a time of quick moving energy, let's stay grounded. Let's stay grounded as things arise. Let's make sure that we're acting from the heart and we're communicating from the heart and we're not simply reacting. And so the major event, well, I'll get as on the 25th, and that's Uranus entering into Gemini. But we also have, before that happens, we have the sun squaring Pluto. And so this is really kind of preparing us for a new era, because Pluto, as we know, just recently in November went into Aquarius. It's going to be there for hundreds of years. And then we just had Neptune and Saturn move into Aries, and now Uranus is moving into Gemini. But right before that happens, the sun is squaring Pluto. So this is about a moment of deep truth. And this is about, Pluto has very much the possibility and potential of showing us what is real in our world. If our sun is our 3D world and Pluto is all about the excavation of the deeply held truths, we might become very aware of power dynamics and things beneath the surface. There might just be some things that come up that are so obvious that maybe were questionable or unsure before. And it's, Pluto's going to invite us to transform something essential. This doesn't have to be scary. It just means that we're living in times of transformation. So Saturday might very well be a day of some interesting insights. Also because just before 9 p.m. on the 25th, Uranus is going to enter into Gemini. And as I mentioned at the top of this is, in my mind, the most important event of this week, potentially of this month. It's certainly something that's part of this 1,000-year cycle of all these outer planets right at this time frame that we'd never really experienced before. They're all shifting together concurrently or successively in this very encapsulated period. So, Uranus reminds us that we are the high technology we seek. It's a planet of awakening. It's also a planet of disruption. It's also a planet of innovation. And as it's moving into Gemini, this is again going to affect our communication. It's about information and our thought forms and also our networks. And we're going to be reminded that we are the creators. I feel like a broken record, but what we choose to focus on, what we choose to speak about and think about and vibrate about matters. Not only does it matter because it affects our day, but it's us creating tomorrow. So we're entering into, kind of a new mental paradigm with this shift, I have to say. And I'll get into a deeper dive with it in the podcast. But, ideas might move faster, communication might evolve at a more rapid pace. And it's also interesting to note that systems of information might transform. And it's tempting to think of this just simply in the realm of technology, because that is what's most familiar to us. But if Uranus is reminding us that we are the high technology we seek, this is about much more than the internet and AI. This is about our consciousness. This is about us, you know, this is about telepathy. This is about communication beyond space and time. This isn't just what are you doing on your phone, right? This is about so much more than the 3D world. So this is, a really exciting time. It's about the collective and it's something that's going to impact us long term. And it's a part of the larger transformation that we're living through. So, if you feel heightened mental activity or interest or even intuitive activity, new ideas emerging, new ways of combining things and creating things. There might even be a shift in how one perceives and processes information. That's the type of shift that Uranus is bringing. So, I would also offer as I close, this is just the beginning. Let's let it unfold. We don't need to understand it all at once. And as I was mentioning in a gathering yesterday, we can take our time with this. This is not something to be rushed, even though it seems, part of us certainly wants things to settle or to know that everything's going to be okay. Everything is okay. And, this is again a time of initiation, a time of transformation, and it's a birthing time. So just as I close, to remember, I'll be offering a deep dive podcast on Uranus and Gemini in the coming week. If you're not already on my email list, um, go ahead and sign up. I'm going to be teaching an Astrology 101 course here in a couple weeks, and it's a really wonderful way to just begin to steep ourselves in the energies and have more understanding and embodied understanding of the times that we are living in. All right. Bright blessings. Happy Sunday. Have a blessed week.